Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. I am officially back. Not 100%. I would say I'm still running at about 50%, but at least I'm here. So I appreciate Fitz taking over the reins last week. I really needed it. I was not feeling well at all. And I appreciate everybody that continue to show up for us and check out and support the channel like you guys always have. We really do appreciate that. So I want to thank everybody for that. But I'm back, and I appreciate you, Fitz. Thank you for taking up the slack last week, my man.
You would do it for me. I got your back.
I appreciate it. So power rankings, look, the Big 12 is an absolute mess. It's just a mess. You know, there's talk out there now, Fitz, that the Big 12 may get left out of the college football playoff altogether, that they're saying, well, conference champions, the 5 highest, and maybe Tulane might get in ahead of a Big 12. And I'm just like, first of all, I don't think that's realistic. But even if it is, it's just, I just think the conference in itself is being so disrespected. Now, don't get me wrong. There's no great football team in this conference. I understand that. But did we think there was going to be one at the beginning of the year? No, we didn't. We didn't think there was going to be some great football team. We thought there'd be a lot of good ones. And turns out it's just not the ones that everybody thought that were going to be good are the good teams. So that's where the difference is. But power rankings, crazy this week, Fitz.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. This conference is it's chaos. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I've never seen anything like it in my 30 plus years of covering college football. Never have witnessed anything like what we're witnessing in the Big 12, with half the conference being still eligible, still have a shot at going to the Big 12 championship with one damn game to play. And here we are. The last week is going to be just throw those cards out on the table and see what's face up, because anyone can beat anyone. Anyone has been beating anyone. This conference, at least in the top, 10 schools, if you throw Kansas into the mix, also, they're going to beat the snot out of each other this weekend. There's so much at stake, and we'll see how it all plays out.
We'll see how it all plays out. My motto is I like chaos. I'm a chaos guy. I root for it. I want it to happen, but to only a certain extent, Fitz. It's just only so much that I can take. And sooner or later, I'd like to be a little bit of clarity on what's going on. I got a feeling this weekend in the Big 12, I'm just going to go out on a limb. We've had so much chaos. I'm going to say this week that takes a turn and we get some clarity. Wow. And we're not going to have all the upsets that everybody believes that we're going to have. We'll talk about that on a later date. Ooh. But for me, that's what I believe is going to happen this weekend, Fitz. I'm going the other way with it.
Your affection for chaos has become the equivalent of a guy who really likes to skydive, and then his chute doesn't open. Yeah. It's like you wanted your chaos, but now your chute didn't open. How's that chaos feel? If we get some normalcy, that might be good, but it also wouldn't fulfill the pledge of the Big 12. No. The new 12 is got the motto, we don't know what the hell is going on. And that's pretty much what it should be.
Exactly. So let's get to this, man. Power rankings. Well, one thing I think everybody can pretty much agree on, although they played better last week, their defense didn't play any better. Oklahoma State is absolutely at 16. They are the worst team in this conference. There's starting to be a little bit of separation there, Fitz, as far as being the worst team in the conference, which is sad to say, but Oklahoma State's just awful. And their defense showed zero resistance last week. Now it looks like they've totally given up.
Hey, the good news for Oklahoma State fans is it's really bad. The better news is Mike Gundy's vowed to stick around, so you're going to get more of this, maybe. Woo! That sounds fun. Come on. This isn't right. Oklahoma State, you deserve better than this.
They do. Maybe just chalk it up to a bad year, I guess, but you're going to need to make some wholesale changes internally for things to turn around. Things just don't magically turn around, so we'll see. At number 15 is Utah. Utah at least put up a fight against Iowa State. Their offense didn't look great, but they were in the football game. If they could have held on at the end, they actually could have won. So to me, Fitz, that's a sign of a team that's still fighting. You know, they didn't just get blown out like they got blown out the week before against Colorado. They were still fighting and had a chance to win this game, but they're still not a very good football team this year.
No, they're scrapping. They've come close on BYU and now this game. So they're getting there, but they're still down there.
Yeah, they're still bad. At 14, I got Houston. I don't know. Houston's won some games like we thought they would against some teams that we didn't think they would beat. But we're at that point of the year to where it's the guys that aren't going to be there have checked out. The guys that are still fighting and are bought in aren't able to sway those guys. And I suspect we're going to see a ton of turnover from Houston with the transfer portal and everything coming in. But at least they haven't quit, Fitz. And a Willie Fritz team, they're not going to quit. That's just not going to happen.
No, they won't. And they're still got something to say about what's going on in the Big 12, and I expect Willie Fritz to have his team ready to make that statement.
Absolutely. At number 13, we got Arizona. Again, a team that could have something to say about what happens in the Big 12 in a rivalry game. But I'll just be honest. I don't know. I don't expect much out of Arizona. I think Arizona State is that much better than they are. Arizona State's playing with a purpose, with a meaning. Yep. And I think this game gets away. But as far as Arizona's concerned, I could have put them lower, to be honest with you. But they did whip. I think it was Houston they played this past weekend. I'll be honest, I was kind of out of it this weekend, but I'm pretty sure they played Houston. And they whipped them. So good for them. But I don't know. No, they didn't play Houston this weekend. Either way, Arizona is just not that great of a football team right now. Or a program.
Beautiful thing.
To be honest with you.
Drugs are a beautiful thing, brother.
Yeah.
You're just out of your mind all weekend long.
Yeah,
I don't even know where we're at.
I was watching football, but I wasn't watching football. It's like, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to take a nap. Yeah, it was weird. Really, really weird.
Well, you were tripping, and the Big 12 was tripping, and everyone was tripping. Arizona, I don't see how you're going to have a shot against Arizona State unless you just really uncork an offensive explosion, because what I like about Arizona State is they have a running back in Cam Scadaboo who's so effective that even when you've stopped him, you haven't stopped him. You need to keep addressing the issue at the middle of your defense and make sure he's not getting over on you. So it just kind of permanently opens up the gates to some quarterback runs and throwing the ball because he is such a presence on the field.
Correct. Absolutely. We'll see what happens with Arizona. Oh, by the way, Arizona got their head beaten in by TCU last week. So that was a week before that they beat Houston. So number 12, UCF. I don't know. I had much higher hopes for UCF this season, and they missed on the quarterback. And when you miss on quarterback and then your quarterback play is bad, it's not that you miss. It's just bad, and then you don't fix it until near the end of the season. They never got on track, and UCF, I could have put them lower. I won't. Didn't look good against West Virginia. Give credit to West Virginia. They were trying to get bowl eligible, and they did. But UCF, I got them at number 12.
And now the question becomes, is UCF going to make a move? I mean, is Gus Malzahn going to survive this season? Because they kind of put everything in the middle of the table with KJ Jefferson, and he turned out to be a 2. He wasn't an effective quarterback in the Big 12. And this is going to sound arrogant. Both you and I saw that coming, that he wasn't going to fit this conference at all, but they went with him, and now does Malzahn survive? I think he's a really good coach, but boy, he's trying to prove otherwise with some of these moves.
Well, the one thing about it also is this is UCF's first losing regular season since 2015, I believe. So that's a long time. And I'm not saying I know they ended up with the losing record last year, but they went to a bowl game. You know, they were 6-6, won to a bowl game and lost the bowl game. I'm talking about just strictly a losing regular season. It's been a while since that's happened. And I got to imagine the people in charge at UCF and boosters and everybody involved is not very happy, especially with a team they thought could be really good this year. So,
yep. And the question becomes, where do they go? I mean,
yeah,
you're kind of caught in this strange position as someone who's only been at the Power Five a couple of years. Your money hasn't really fully kicked in. Where do you go with this hire? I think you're going to end up taking a chance on a young guy, and we'll see if they make a move or if they decide because of that, everything going on, let's just stand pat for now and see what happens next year. I don't know that they can afford back-to-back losing seasons though, and lose that momentum they've had historically over the last 10 years.
Nope, they can't. They can't. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting, but UCF's a program that should be on the rise. It's a big step back, unfortunately, for them. Number 11, I got Cincinnati. Cincinnati is taking a nosedive. They were 5-2 after 7 games this year, Fitz. And one of those games, you could have easily said they should have won against Pitt, where they were up 27-3 and ended up giving that game away. So you look at that, they haven't won a game since then. They've lost. I mean, it's unprecedented what has happened to Cincinnati, and they got to win this weekend to be bowl eligible. You're sitting at 5-2. I don't think there was any thought by anybody, Fitz, that they were going to a bowl game. Now you got to beat TCU to go to a bowl game. That's crazy. That to me, that is just, man, the program obviously is better than what I anticipated because I thought they were going to be terrible, but you were better. You were 5-2. And now look at, you got to win this game. I don't know, Fitz, but I got them at 11.
Yeah. TCU's hard to figure out. There's been a little disconnect here between the conference and what the projections say. The projections by the independent sites say TCU's out of it. So this game maybe doesn't mean as much to TCU as it will to Cincinnati. I'm not sure.
Right.
The Big 12 still says TCU's in it. According to the statistics, their percentage chance is 0. There's no scenario where they get into the Big 12 title game, but I didn't expect the Big 12 to understand any of that. Cincinnati, though, let's be blunt, they didn't look like a great football team. Maybe K-State did that to them, or maybe that's just what Cincinnati's devolved into. They kind of got pushed around in Manhattan, and this is their shot. They're at home. Get to a bowl game. It's huge. It's a huge thing for your program.
Yeah, huge thing for the program, especially where they started. I don't want to say it's a disappointment or it's a failure of a season, but I think it would be a disappointment. You start off 5-2 and you don't go to a bowl game. That's got disappointment written all over it. So let's reveal the first half here compared to what the publishers had. Bottom 2 the same. They got Arizona and Houston flip, and then the next are the same. So pretty much dead on, Fitz.
Yeah, it's boiling out, isn't it? We're beginning to figure out who's real and who's not. Oh, hold on. We got something up here. Hold on. Let me there. Oh, the Power Cat on there. Did you talk to Cole Carmody recently?
I did. But yeah, this is interesting how this is shaping out. I mean, it's not too difficult. I mean, we know what the bottom of the conference is. Myself and the publishers are pretty spot on with all of this. Again, they just have Houston and Arizona mixed around. But yeah, I agree. I think this is the bottom of the conference right now.
Yep. I tell you what, I'm still in shock at some of the teams that are in that list from what we thought at the start of the season, but that's become a pretty consistent grouping right there.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move on here. So at number 10, I've got West Virginia. They became bowl eligible last week. I thought their offense looked better without Garrett Green at quarterback. They made the switch back to him. Not this past week, but the week before. I still think the offense looks better without him, unfortunately. I know that's going to make a lot of West Virginia fans mad. But some of the ones that I talked to, they said, no, Big B, you're right. The offense does look better without him. They love his grit, just not a good passer. But it is what it is. I got West Virginia at number 10.
This is kind of where we thought they'd be.
Yeah.
After going up and going down, they're about where we thought they'd be in the standings at the start of the year. So at least something went as planned.
Yeah.
Now, I think Neil Brown probably survives this. There's a lot of talk about his, one of his big supporters is the university president. That always helps.
Yes.
We'll see. I know the frustration is growing with fans in Morgantown, and as it should be. This is a proud football program that is watching itself struggle now and kind of blow games they should be winning. It's just not happening.
Right. One thing about it is that just, I don't know, it's a proud fan base that expects more. I'll be honest with you. If they made a move here, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised because I think they thought, based on what happened last year, maybe the schedule helped them a little bit, but the team was supposed to be better this year, and it wasn't. So moving on, Texas Tech at number 9. I mean, I don't know. This is kind of where everybody thought Tech would be, middle of the pack. Again, Tech is one of those programs that's it's a solid program, but it can never get over the hump. It just can never get over the hump.
No.
And that was the same thing this year. And it was epitomized last week. You're playing against a pathetic Oklahoma State game, and your defense literally doesn't show up for this football game. And you have to win in a shootout in Stillwater. I'm like, Texas Tech, you're better than Oklahoma State by a lot, but you didn't prove it. And this is one of the reasons, Fitz, that they can't get over the hump is for games like this. How do you give up that many yards and that many points to Oklahoma State, who has literally cashed it in on the season? It's crazy.
I don't understand that. I mean, you ever heard of a thing called defense? I mean, why don't you play some? The shootouts are all fun and entertaining, but that's not good football.
No,
that's not how you establish any kind of ability to rule a conference or be towards the top. You got to stop people. And when Oklahoma State and its struggling offense is moving the ball all over you, dude, you got problems. And this is a problem. Texas Tech needs to be a more complete football team to go with that offense, and they just aren't there yet.
Nope, not there yet. Hopefully they can get there. At number 8, I got TCU. I think this is a year where TCU fans, after that Houston debacle at home on that Friday night, I think TCU fans are going to live with it. I think TCU fans are going to think, you know what? If we can get to 8 wins, there's no way we thought we were going to get to 8 wins after we blow the game at home against UCF and then we blow the game at home against Houston. I don't think any TCU fan thought, okay, we're going to get to 8 wins this year, but they got an opportunity to do that. So is it the bounce back year that they were looking for? It may have done a little bit of roller coaster, Fitz, but I actually think it is. I think this is kind of the bounce back season that they needed.
I'm going to be shocked if they get to 8 with some of the games they've lost. But here they are. Yeah. They're in that massive tie for, well, I guess it'd be technically 5th place, but you're only 1 game out of the lead with, according to our calculations, no chance to advance to Arlington, but you're there. You're there. And if you win another one, you've accomplished something on the road back to where you want to be. And congratulations. But after a national championship shot, playing for the game, in the game, to kind of fall off the end of the earth like this and fighting back is a really good sign for the Frogs.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's the bounce back that what they needed, because I believe that most TCU fans just thought last year was just a debacle. So good for them. Moving on at number 7, I've got Kansas. And I'll be honest with you, Fitz, I had trouble here. I was wanting to put Kansas higher. I really wanted to put them higher. You can't convince me that Kansas isn't playing some of the best football, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country. However, I am a person that does say, while power rankings, they're going to change week to week, I'm not going to forget every single thing that happened in previous weeks. I can't just say, well, I'm going to eliminate that and only look at the last 4 weeks or the last 3 weeks, whatever it is. I'm not going to do that. So I got Kansas at 7. Could have been higher. Crazy turnaround. Huge game on Saturday, Fitz.
Absolutely. This conference has kind of grouped itself into, blocks now. But Kansas is the only one who breaks free of its grouping and kind of rises up higher than that because of the way they're playing. I still can't wrap my mind around they are the first college football team ever to beat 3 ranked teams in a row with a losing record. Because think about it, you got to be 4 games under to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go into the last one, you win a couple games and now you're 5-5, you can't accomplish the feat. So you got to be really bad and then really good. And this is the first time it's happened in this sequence and get the games lined up with 3 ranked teams. And here we go. Kansas has done something no one else has done. I don't know if that's much to carry away from the season for KU fans, but you got one more game. And if you continue this roll, you're going to a bowl game at 6-6, which 4 games ago seemed almost impossible, but here you are.
Yeah, there they are. It's just crazy that the turnaround that they've had is just they stopped turning the ball over is basically what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, people want to know what's the secret sauce. What have they done? They stopped turning the football over and they started running it more. That all the things that we kept calling for Kansas to do at the beginning of the year when they were going through their losing streak, stop turning it over, give the ball to Devin Neal, and let him carry it home or just keep running the football. They did that. Jalen Daniels stopped turning it over. And lo and behold, they're winning football games. So good for the Kansas Jayhawks. At number 6, the Baylor Bears. I mean, what else are you going to say? I mean, they've run off a string of victories here. That's incredible. Baylor, again, has themselves sitting at a position. I don't think they're going to make the Big 12 title game, but crazier things have happened. They're in position. And then there's not a soul alive that thought they were going to be in position 3 games into this season. 5 games into this season, nobody thought that. Heck, 5 games into the season, you thought the coach was getting fired. And here, not only is he not getting fired, they're sitting at 7-4, Fitz, with a chance to win 8 games. This is insane. I love this Baylor football team.
And there's a scenario here where Baylor does get into the Big 12 championship, possibly playing Kansas State. Another scenario with very slim chance is Baylor and Tech in the championship game. How do you explain that to anyone, let alone those not familiar with the Big 12, and how that happened? Because those 2 schools haven't even been in the conversation at any point this season. Well, maybe Tech early on, but realistically, it's just so off the radar, and yet we go into the final weekend with a shot at that. That's credit to Baylor. They just kept fighting. They should have been done after that Colorado loss. That was just a fiasco that should have broke their soul. I mean, to lose a game that way, but no, they just kept scrapping and fighting and getting it done for their coach. And here they are right on the cusp of doing something that is absolutely incredible if they can make it to Arlington.
Absolutely. Here's the thing for me. Like you mentioned, they just kept fighting. I kept saying it all along. I kept saying they haven't quit. That was the thing that always stuck with me, Fitz, is that no matter what was going on with them, they just didn't quit. And sooner or later, when you don't quit, your fortunes eventually will start to turn into your favor. Dave Aranda was able to capture that. The kids kept fighting, kept buying in, and all of a sudden they started winning football games. I am extremely proud of that Baylor Bears football team.
Pretty
so
cool.
At number 5, Colorado. Look, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Colorado fumbled away their opportunity to get into the college football playoff, to get into the Big 12 championship game. You had control of your destiny, and you literally got run over. Kansas just lined up and just said, you know what? We're just going to run the football, and there's not going to be anything that you can do about it. And that's exactly what happened. There's been Colorado fans talking about refs cheating and late dirty hits. Look, that was one of the dirtiest hits I think I've ever seen in watching football in my entire life. It clearly was a dirty hit. Don't get me wrong. But that didn't cost you the football game. What cost you the football game is because what everybody said all along about Colorado, you don't control the line of scrimmage. You literally got physically manhandled at the line of scrimmage on both sides, and you got beat. That's it. Because, Fitz, they didn't play bad on offense. They just never had the ball. And it's hard to score a bunch of points if you don't have the football. Kansas just ran right over them. But it is what it is. It's still not a failure at Colorado, though. Some people are trying to say this is a failure, and I'm like, hold on a second. They won 1 game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They were horrible last year and won 4 games. Now they've won 8, and you're trying to tell me that's a failure? No, it isn't. No, it's not.
No, but I got to say this. If you're bored today, folks, and you want some pure entertainment, go back and read the comments in last week's Spotlight show previewing Colorado and Kansas, how dismissive Colorado fans were of Kansas, and that they wanted you to ignore the fact they had won back-to-back games against ranked teams and only focus on the 6 losses. And they stood no chance against Colorado. There's some self-awareness that is lacking at times with these Colorado fans. You are not the 85 Bears.
No.
You're a much improved football team, but you're nobody's damn Super Bowl. Just stop saying it. It's crazy that you've convinced yourself of that. And now you're staring at on the outside in a race that you had your handle on. You had control of it. This game is going to be BYU Colorado, and now if everything shakes out according to plan in the Big 12, which it doesn't, it's going to be 2 entirely different schools. It's going to be Iowa State and Arizona State. How's that happen if you're, the Super Bowl 85 Bears? Come on. It's not that Big B. What bothered me about the comments wasn't the confidence. You should be confident in your team, but the just total dismissiveness of everyone else in the conference, like they don't matter, and we're just all here to entertain Colorado. Get over yourselves. Come on, fans. Just support your team and don't be idiots out there.
Well, it's like I said. I mean, look, I'll just cut it off here until we get to the next one, and I'll say this about it. Our channel, Fitz, is going to take longer to build up to where it's going to go because we don't dabble in the trolls. I don't stand for people disrespecting me, you, or anybody else in the comments. You can root for your team. You can disagree with what anybody's saying, but you're not going to come in and disrespect people. And there was so much of that going on. I'm glad I wasn't really with it a whole lot last week. I went back and kind of read some of it. I'm like, the disrespect has just got to stop. And again, I understand it's going to take us longer to get to where we want to go, but because of that, people will stay because they know that we're being real and we're not fake and we're not doing clickbaitish nonsense to get people over here. That's not what we're doing. So if that's what you came to do and just to troll, then you're wasting your time because we're just not going to deal with it. We just don't put up with it. We're here to have fun. We're here to argue, but we're not here for disrespect. Yeah. Period. I'm sorry. I had to get off my soapbox.
No, I agree. But at the bottom line, Colorado's a really good football team.
Yeah, and they are.
This stuff kind of overshadows that, distracts from the fact that they are a good team.
Yes.
Sanders is special. Travis Hunter's a freak. They just don't have enough pieces. That's the problem with the transfer portal plan is you can get a lot better, but you can't zero in on everything. Someone's not going to work out. And they have vastly improved their program. I hope Dion stays. Hope he continues to build there because it could be really special. Colorado's really important to this conference, and the passion of that fan base is really important to this conference. I just wish that passion didn't come with such hostility towards your conference mates because the whole world is disrespecting this conference outside of Big 12 people. We don't need it from the inside.
Correct.
And tearing down doesn't do anything to build up this conference. And
no, not at all.
I'm a little bit exhausted by it, to be honest, because I want to be able to talk about Colorado as a football team and not be distracted by some really annoying fans that are just nasty. And I had to scold someone for a racial comment last week. And it's like, what are we doing here, folks? Let's just stay. It just should be fun. Should be fun. And if you can't admit that Kansas was playing good football on the way into that game, you don't know crap about college football. And maybe you should just back up and get away from the mic.
But they're not on the mic though, Fitz. That's the thing. They're on the keyboard and the phone, so it makes it easier. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yep.
Let's pull into this. So TC, it doesn't look the same over on this side. We got two that look the same, Kansas and Baylor. But West Virginia, they've got a little higher. TCU, they've got lower. So it's a little bit more muddled on this side of it.
You know what? I'm really surprised that the publishers had Kansas at 7, just like you. Because it's easy at this point in the season. We're 8 games in the conference schedule. You can pop open the standings, and here's the top 4. They're all with 2 losses. Here's the next 5 with 3 losses. It's kind of easy to go do that, but everyone saw that Kansas is playing way above what their record is right now.
Yeah. That was my thing. I saw that too, and Kansas is just better than what they were. I honestly, it was hard for me not to put them higher. I really, really considered it, Fitz, to put them higher. But again, in being fair to my own beliefs on what I believe, I just can't ignore all the other games and just say they don't matter, because results have to matter. That's why we talk about with this whole college football playoff. Look, Indiana and Penn State, they've played one good team all year and they've lost to them. The other teams that they have played have been absolute garbage, especially Indiana. Having said that, winning has to matter. The results have to matter. If they don't, then let's just not play any games, and just move on. Indiana didn't pick their conference schedule. They didn't get to do that. And nobody thought Indiana was even going to be any good. So why are you mad at Indiana for what their schedule is? You can be mad at them for the non-conference, but everything else, you can't be mad. I know I'm going off on a tangent here. I apologize, but it's just the way I feel about it. That's what the whole thing with Kansas, too, is just they're just playing better. They're playing better football, and you got to put them in there, but you can't eliminate what we've seen.
I think we've run into a problem here that I don't think we fully appreciated when conferences started swelling to 16 members. The odds of some teams getting a really easy or really difficult schedule are greatly increased. And we've seen a huge disparity in schedule strength. And I think the committee has got to lay more foundation in strength of schedule than they are. Because they're indicating things that they don't necessarily like. That doesn't make sense to them, so they just ignore it. Well, no, you can't ignore it. Let's be blunt here. I saw the stat. I shared it on another podcast last night, but I'm blown away by this. UMass has now played more ranked teams in the SEC than Texas. So is that Texas's fault? No, it's not. You didn't pick your schedule in conference play, but you are held accountable for that schedule. Unfair, maybe, but Boise State is going to be held accountable in some degrees for its schedule, and it didn't have any control over it, and it's a really good football team. How good, we're not real sure, but we think pretty good. But that's part of the game, and you're not immune to it because you're in one conference or the other. If you play a tough schedule, you should be rewarded. And if the schedule was really kind to you, like it was to Indiana, that has to be taken into account. That when they finally played a good team in Ohio State, they were greatly overmatched. You've got to be able to look at those things.
At some point, it's got to make sense, because you could just look at the schedule and just go by this. Texas and Oklahoma both going to SEC at the same time. Flip their schedules. What does Texas' record look like?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Just flip their conference schedules and tell me what Texas's record looks like. So
and you know what, Big B, you know me, I love a good conspiracy theory. That almost felt intentional.
Yeah, it did.
There was so much disparity between the difficulty of Oklahoma's and the ease of Texas's schedule going into the season. And unlike the Big 12, it's kind of played out a little bit like what everyone thought, because it was known mixtures there in the SEC. The Big 12 has been a mess, but you could see it. You could see that they're like, well, Texas is the valued partner that we really need to build up that brand, because they'll really drive ratings. So here you go, Texas. Here's a gift. Sorry, Oklahoma. Thanks for tagging along. It was so obvious what they did that they should have stopped and said, yeah, this is not right. We need to relook at these schedules.
Crazy, man. Well, let's get to the Final Four here. I've got Kansas State at number 4. I just thought what they did this past week, they made some changes internally. They made some changes on where coaches were coaching from. I just think Kansas State looks like a different team. And now, granted, it's just 1 week, but from what they were, I still have them as a top 4 team in this conference based on what they did last week. So there's going to be some people that think Colorado should be ahead of them. Kansas State beat Colorado. I know that was a long time ago, and it was. You're right. But I watched Colorado get just run over by Kansas, and I watched Kansas State run over Cincinnati. That's why I have the difference in the two. I was kind of torn on those two. Call me biased if you want, but one team got run over, another team didn't. So I got Kansas State at 4.
Yeah, and Colorado's still in the mix. I mean,
correct.
They need Kansas State to win this weekend. That's what's interesting about it. They really need Iowa State eliminated from this mix because then they're back in it. But yeah, that was a loss. It's amazing. It's a loss that we all saw coming for Colorado, and they didn't. And Kansas State climbed right back on the horse and said, hey, we're going to move our OC back down to the field. We're going to do this and that. And it worked. Maybe Cincinnati's just a bad football team right now, but Kansas State accelerated that process, winning 41-15. So that's pretty emphatic.
They did. At number 3, I've got BYU. This is 2 weeks in a row, Fitz. Hadn't looked great. But they're not getting blown out, but they're starting to lose. But you know what? This is what I'll say about BYU. There was so many BYU fans that were in the comment section of all the stuff that we do here on the channel that kept saying, Big B, I know you're rooting us on, but I've seen this play out before. It's coming. We're going to lose. And I just kept saying, no, you're playing fine. And then I would always think about it, Fitz, and I'm like, you know what? Everybody can't keep winning like this. They can't keep going down to the wire and winning like this. Sooner or later, the percentages are going to catch up with you. And that's what I think has happened to BYU. They won all those games, those tight games, those close games, which, again, is the mark of a really good football team when you can win those close games, but you can't win every game that way. You're just not going to win every single close game when you're not on your A game. And this was another one of those cases. Arizona State just took the fight to them, took it to them early. BYU fought back, but you can't win them all. You just can't win them all. I got them at 3.
Yeah, let's be honest here. BYU's a really good football team, but they were getting some bounces.
They were.
Things were breaking their way through most of the season, and then Kansas comes in, and that script got flipped. All of a sudden, Kansas, which had seen hardly any breaks, is the team getting the breaks, getting the bounces, not committing the big crucial turnover, and it was BYU doing it. And I think then that dented their confidence going to Arizona State. They've gone from being in the driver's seat of this conference, being absolutely in control, and being, a lock for the playoff. Maybe even if they had lost the championship game at 12-1, they might sneak in. And now they're on the outside looking in, hoping that either Arizona State or Iowa State can lose. Crazy.
It is absolutely crazy, man, this conference. Woo. At number 2, I got Iowa State. A lot of Iowa State fans are like, man, we struggled 2 weeks in a row. Even last week, we didn't play well, even though we beat Utah. But, again, good teams find a way to win when they're not playing their best. And Iowa State, here they are. They had moved down. They win a game. And they got a big one on Saturday. But to me, Iowa State's kind of been that steady team, that one team, Fitz, that's been steady. They've lost a few, but they just kind of been steady, especially the way that Iowa State's beat up. Lord have mercy. Their defense just decimated by injuries. But here they are at number 2 in the Big 12.
It's incredible. This is Matt Campbell's best coaching job by far. And Iowa State is in a position to play for a Big 12 title. And just a few weeks ago, they lost back-to-back games and looked like a sinking ship. You talk about the difference a week can make, because they're like 1 week ahead of BYU's trajectory. Now BYU's lost back-to-back games, but they haven't been able to get back in the saddle and prove themselves again. That's where Iowa State is, and here they are. They're back towards the top of the conference. But something really cool is at stake in this game with Kansas State. Iowa State is one of the 2 teams that's never in power football that's never won 10 games, and that's at stake in Ames this weekend. They can end their regular season 10-2, make it the most accomplished season in terms of victories in the history of an incredible football program. Now, granted, they can lose and still get it done in the bowl game, but you know what? Those 10 wins in a regular season just hit differently than using the bowl game, like Kansas State would need to. If they win at Iowa State, they still need to win the bowl game to get to 10.
Yeah, winning 10 in the regular season just means so much more,
Yeah.
especially now with opt-outs and transfer portal and all that stuff. You don't know who's going to be. You have a skeleton crew playing in the football game. Who knows in your bowl game? But Iowa State, really good football team, number 2 in the Big 12 at this point in time in the power rankings. I think it's well deserved. And number 1, I think this is I think we had Iowa State not Iowa State, but Arizona State last week. And we got Arizona State again this week. They deserve it. Big win. That was a crazy finish. I thought it was mismanaged by Arizona State. They had the ball, what was it, 1st and goal from the 9, and they ended up that last play from like the 47. I'm like, what are you doing? I get trying to run time off the clock, but there's got to be a better way to do this. And then to leave 1 second on the clock, I'm just like, wow, couldn't have been mismanaged more. Having said all of that, they won the football game, and nobody, Fitz, and I mean nobody, thought that they would be right here with 1 game left at the end of the season at the top of any power rankings in the Big 12. Nobody thought.
I want to be clear here. That mess at the end was not the problem of the officials. It was Arizona State.
Yes.
I'm still a little confused what Kenny Dillingham was so fired up about. You're the one who followed this absurd plan to run out the clock in this weird way of having a quarterback run around backwards and lose a bunch of yardage. Just pick up a damn first down and finish the game.
Yeah.
Play man ball. We're going to force it down your throat, get a first down, and you lose. But no, they do this nonsense, and I'm still shocked they didn't get penalized. The team, the fans were on the field before the game was over. The goalposts were down. Come on. But they're a really good football team. And at the end of the day, let's not get distracted. What Kenny Dillingham's done in Tempe is absolutely incredible. It's incredible. And granted, he stepped into a new conference and took advantage of a little chaos here, and now is sitting on the cusp of going to a title game, and all they've got to do is beat their rival who is down this season. Seems like a formula for heartbreak, but I cover Kansas State, and those kind of things happen to Kansas State. So we'll see what plays out this weekend. It's going to be entertaining, but it's amazing. We thought the Sun Devils would be one of the worst teams in the conference, and right now, there they are. 1 game to play in the regular season, and they're atop the Big 12 world.
Absolutely. Let's reveal everything here. Same at the top. Colorado, BYU, they have it 4. So it's a little bit switched around for the top 5 there. But still all the same teams. Basically to 7, it's the same teams with the publishers. So having said all of that, look, this last week, Fitz, like I said before, I like chaos. I just think it's been, again, percentages. And I'm not even a big analytics guy. I'm not that guy. But the percentages, it's been so chaotic. I think this weekend is just going to be one of those, everybody that you think is going to win, that's who's going to win. And then we'll let the chips fall where they may with all these tiebreakers and all that stuff. I really believe that's what's going to happen this weekend.
Please, Lord, don't let the Big 12 have to decide this with tiebreakers. They don't know what they're doing. They're completely lost. They said this weekend that TCU could be in the game, and they can't. Just deliver us from this painful situation of watching the conference office in Irving, try to figure out a basic tiebreaker. Amen. God bless the Big 12. There we go.
Yeah, it is. We don't need that. Just let it get decided on the field, something simple, and then let's just move on from there. So, but again, everybody, man, I appreciate everybody showing up like you always have. Thank you again for being patient with me. It's going to be a while before I'm 100%. I'll just throwing that out there right now. It's going to be at least a month or 2 before I'm back to 100%, but I'm getting better. If you'd have seen me 2 weeks ago, I was horrible, or a week ago, I was horrible. 2 weeks, it was just bad, but I'm getting back. So hopefully you guys stick with us. I appreciate you all sticking with us. And remember to like, follow, subscribe, get in those comments, man, and let us know exactly what you're thinking. We appreciate you guys. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.